Welcome to Chasing Hard podcast, where we talk about trusting God when life doesn't turn out the way you planned. If you've been alive for any amount of time, then you have surely experienced a time when life did not turn out the way you planned. It could have been something so big that it changed the trajectory of your life. It could have been something kind of minor that was an inconvenience, or somewhere in between. It doesn't matter. The fact is, we've all gone through situations in our lives that didn't turn out quite how we envisioned or how we planned. And that's the nature of life. Here's the beauty about that, though. And by the way, it is just me, in case you haven't guessed that yet. I don't have a guest. I don't. I'm changing things up a little bit. There may even be a little bit of a pause as I'm working on some new and exciting things, but I'm grateful for you who listen faithfully, for you who comment and even leave some comments or whatever, some sharing the podcast with people who you feel like need it. I'm glad you do that. Thanks for doing that. I read these words the other day and they just resonated with me. And I feel like you might find them helpful as well. I know we talk about emotional wellness here a lot on our podcast, and it's important to talk about that. God talks about how he wants us to prosper and be in good health, even as our souls prosper. Our souls are our emotions, our mind, our will. And so to tend to those things are taking care of the important things God has given us to steward. Like, it is our responsibility to take care of our bodies, including our souls and our emotions. And emotions are God given. Like, we experience a gamut of emotions all throughout life, and it's not an accident. It's not unplanned. It's not even a sin. There are times when you experience emotions, you can choose to act inappropriately because of the emotion, but the emotion itself is not wrong. It's God given. It talks about in the Bible where Jesus was angry. He turned the tables over in the house of God because they had turned it into like a marketplace, and that's not what it was intended to be. And Jesus was angry. He didn't sin in his anger. Anger isn't a sin, nor are any of our emotions. And so what I've read, I'm just going to share it here. It says heal so you can hear what's being said without the filter of your wounds. Whether we know it or not, whether we realize it or not, whether we like it or not, we have filters. We hear things according to the things that we believe. We hear things and filter them according to what we believe about ourselves, about the world, about relationships. It's just the way it is. And so if we have unhealed wounds in our lives because of traumatic events, because of whatever, because of abuse, because of someone's neglect, we carry those things with us unless we take the time to heal from them. And carrying those things with us may not feel like a big deal because we're not letting them bother us. But the fact of the matter is, that's your filter. Like, you've heard stories, we've all heard stories about how children grow up to feel unworthy, to feel stupid, to feel whatever as adults. And they can remember feeling that way as children, though they can't ever really remember. Oftentimes, it's not always the case, but oftentimes we can't remember anyone really saying, hey, you're stupid. You'll never amount to anything. You don't matter. You're not enough. No matter what you do, you're not enough and you never will be enough. Typically, for the majority, we don't hear those things verbally. But for whatever reason, and probably because we live in a sinful world, that's the message that we get, that we receive, that we grow up thinking. That's our belief, our core beliefs. are usually given to us without people even knowing that they are doing so. And so to heal from those things allows us to use different filters. And it's important to have those different filters. It's important to heal from those things so that we can be everything that God created us to be. And therefore, we can answer the call that He has placed on our lives. The call is irrevocable, but what we choose to do with that call oftentimes depends on how we choose to deal with the wounds of our past that we carry over into our present until we stop and do something about them. Oftentimes we see the same thing being carried out in an adult's life that was carried out in a child's life. We see the same thing being carried out in a life that was pretty much the same thing as a grandparent or whatever. There is such a thing as generational curses. And I believe science even backs that up with DNA memory. Like we have memories of things that happened, traumatic things that really didn't actually happen to us. It happened in our ancestry, and yeah, to our ancestors. We'll go with that. And I think that's part of the generational curse that gets passed down. It just sort of makes sense. And so we often wonder, like for an example, let's say I'm gonna make up an imaginary story of a family whose dad was an alcoholic. They had, maybe 5 kids. One kid will choose to have nothing to do with alcohol or drugs, while the other 4, or maybe 3 others, turn into blatant alcoholics or just don't have healthy boundaries around alcohol, or they find a partner who is an alcoholic or doesn't have healthy boundaries surrounding drinking. That's not uncommon at all. In fact, that's more than normal thing. And we wonder why that happens, how this person became an alcoholic when they were the brunt or lived with an alcoholic parent. Generational curse, for one thing. And for another thing, we carry that into our futures to try to recreate that situation in order to fix it. It's common. It's a common thing to do. A lot of us grow up feeling ultra responsible for the things that went wrong in our lives, our families, and we want to fix it. We weren't able to fix it then because we were kids. So I guess we think we can fix it as adults. And so we unconsciously recreate the same situation so we can fix it. And I guess that's somehow supposed to make the past better. It doesn't work that way. I read this quote once upon a time that said, forgiveness is giving up every hope of changing the past. And I think that falls into what we're talking about today. Once you give up the idea that you can change your past, you're free to live in the present. You're free to have a brighter future. And none of this really happens without God. I mean, I know a lot of people don't believe in God and do have some healthy relationships. But to be the healthiest that you can be really centers around a healthy relationship with Jesus. We were created to have relationships with our Creator. We were created for God, by God. And to ignore that part of our being or to find something to fill that part, it doesn't turn out well. It doesn't work. It may work for a while. It may look like it's working, but when all is said and done, it really doesn't work. And so, yeah, emotional wellness, healing, taking the time to heal from all the wounds is important to get rid of the filters and to be the whole person God created you to be. And here's the thing about healing wounds and trauma. You don't have to deal with every incident because sometimes we don't even remember them all. You just have to enter into that space of healing with hopefully someone who can help you walk that journey. And it's sort of a residual effect. It tends to carry over. And so as you learn to be healthy and heal from this particular event, it kind of carries over into other events that don't seem as important or that kind of just come under the feelings that you had. Emotional wellness. I don't know why we as Christians neglect that or tend to think that's not a thing for Christians to deal with. We have received Jesus as our Lord and we have the Holy Spirit living within us, so we don't have to worry about those things. That is true. We don't have to worry about those things. What's not true is we do have to deal with them. We do need to confront them, not be afraid of them. They aren't who we are. They're just the things we've experienced. And the things we experience sometimes are beyond our sphere of control. Like we can't do anything about it. We were too young. We were unaware. Even as adults, we don't have a lot of power in a lot of situations. Having God as your higher power, trusting God to lead you into the places where you need to be healed is important. I hope you do take that time to find the space, to find what it is that you need to heal from so that you can hear important things without the filter of your wounds. It's important for healthy relationships. Because have you been in a conversation with someone you love and who loves you, and you say something and they react in a way that blows your mind? You're like, what? I didn't mean it that way. What are they doing? Like, I don't understand why they reacted when I didn't. Like, that's not at all what I meant. That's because they heard it through a filter that they have that we're unaware of. Do we have a part to play in communication? Of course. It's important to communicate what we want to communicate in the correct and proper manner. But that's why those things happen a lot of times, is because of our own filters due to our own hurts. I would love to hear your feedback on this particular topic. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know how you deal. Let me know how this hits with you, the heal so you can hear what's being said without the filter of your wounds. How does that land with you? What are you going to do with it? What have you done with it? I'd be interested to hear. So thank you for taking some time out to listen to just me. I appreciate that. I love your feedback. I love that you listen. I love that you look forward to hearing. I hope to have a guest or two on soon, but as I said, just kind of switching some things up. And I don't really want to take a break, but that may be necessary because of the other things that I'm working on. Yeah. So again, thanks for joining. I will be back next week. I hope you are too.